Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening to Tesla stock, what we can expect moving forward, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., well, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day as the market is open and trading, right? In my YouTube membership, that link, of course, is down below. So definitely check it out if you're interested. For just $3 a month is, of course, the Tesla tier. $5 includes NVDA in there as well for, again, constant updates, etc., on those tickers. And then tier 3 for $7 a month US, of course, includes non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA stocks that I share with my members. And on the weekend, we do chart requests on Discord. So definitely check it out. But jumping into a Tesla, closing the day just over 3% on the day, closing just shy of $330 per share, which is overall a pretty nice movement to the upside off of these lows all the way down here. Now, as usual, we'll go over, the overall picture, bull and bear case scenarios. Yeah, let's talk about it. So overall, the bigger picture is pretty simple, right? I have this one extra trend line. I just put it for the purposes of this video from all-time highs over here that has kind of rejected us here, roughly, give or take. Or you can obviously draw the trend line that looks more like this if you want, right? Which technically is not fully invalidated because of this situation that happened here. We never closed above it. Whichever way you want to draw it, that's one way to look at it. Personally, I'm just looking at it in this fashion right here, this kind of like pennant shape, which I've been talking about for quite some time. And that's why I'm going to continue looking at it. Right, this massive pennant that Tesla, of course, is in. The current high of the pennant, sometime, let's say next week, about the very low 340s, roughly. The low of the pennant, about 300. So essentially, as of right now, as long as we are essentially within that range, 300 and 340, expect chop, right? We expect chop, even potentially post earnings, right? There is a very good chance that once earnings happens next Wednesday, that we still get stuck within this range. That, there is a very real possibility of that shouldn't be excluded, and it essentially becomes a premium burner type earnings, right? So, let's see. There's a lot of room left, I guess is what I'm trying to say within this pennant. So it wouldn't fully shock me if we do some kind of like movement like this and then get closer to the apex of it, if you will, before it gets really, really tight. Because also if we go to the weekly, same pennant here, or was it the monthly? I think it was the monthly actually. We're getting very, very tight on the monthly on Tesla stock, right? We're potentially, again, there's still half a month almost, but we're so far potentially looking to print a second month inside month candle, I should say, in a row, right? We had last month, of course, that was completely contained within May. Now we have July that potentially could be completely contained within June. So it's something worth watching, something that is worth paying attention to. So that's probably the overall bigger perspective. Like I said, a break above this pennant should yield 400 at least, in my opinion. Below, however, 240 probably. Those are my kind of upper and lower targets on a break of this pennant. Now, moving forward from that, what else did I talk about? Well, the first and foremost is the fact that the 4-hour chart. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. So, well, actually, let's do the 1 hour first, right? I mentioned yesterday how the 1 hour SMI was a little bit overextended, right? And then, of course, we ended up getting this small little pullback. Granted, I did expect this pullback to be a little bit steeper. I was expecting closer to 315 itself. But nonetheless, we got that pullback I was talking about to 316 and change. And we got the 1 hour SMI kind of reset. However, now 1 hour SMI. Oh, my rune light. Give me a second, guys. This is I'm playing RuneScape on the side, so hey, it is what it is. But the 1 hour SMI. You can see now it's getting over to these kind of elevated territories again, but combine that with the fact that we're at, this sort of dreaded, I should say, 330 to 333 or so resistance point that has been a major pain point in the past before, and even a nice support in the past before. We're pretty much back there, right? But we're back there with the 4-hour SMI now also entering this sort of overextended territory. And you can see the 4-hour SMI, every time it's been at these kind of overextended scenarios, it has been at the very least close to at least a short-term top, if not at the very least a constant consolidation type situation. But with earnings, I doubt it'll be just a strict consolidation. We probably will still get a volatile movement, but most likely just contained within this sort of pennant, if you will. But nonetheless, the reason I'm bringing this up is because combine that with the 330 to 333 resistance point, the 4-hour SMI being all the way up here, there is reason to believe that we are starting to enter some pretty substantial turbulence as we go any higher from here. So let's watch for that moving forward, and let's see how that ultimately plays out. But that's kind of what I'll be looking at there. Now, let's look at a little bit of a potential bearish scenario. Now, if you're a bear, I don't like this as much personally because I view this high break over here to be a good sign for bulls personally. But if you view this as being the previous high and you're not looking at it more like on the micro time frame, you can technically make an argument that this was the previous high and this is the high that needs to get broken for bulls to really take control. And that's a more bearish perspective, which you can take the Fibonacci's and you can see we rejected pretty much almost right dead smack at this 0.618 Fibonacci. So if you're a bear, this in my opinion is kind of what you're looking at. Worst case scenario for the bears, you go up to the green fibs once again, pretty much closer to the 340s once again, but that's kind of what I'll be looking for moving forward. So if you're a bear, this is probably where you're looking at. This is probably where you're expecting and whatnot, and a massive rejection from here, which of course, if we start losing 300, we'll most likely make fresh new lows well below this, at the very least 270. But like I said, losing 300 most likely means we see 240. But this is the more bearish perspective. So again, I'm sharing both perspectives. I personally don't think this is going to happen, but it's worth sharing. I think it's maybe 20% odds of this happening, in my opinion, strictly off of this type of situation. Again, mainly because I personally, I could be wrong, of course, right? But I personally view that the break of this high here was that nice, fresh, higher high, because I view this as a lower high right here into a lower low, into a break of the recent higher lower high. Now we set a fresh higher high, and now from here we most likely come down, set a fresh higher low, and then continue to the top of the pennant. And if we break above, well, that's a different story entirely, and that's where we get a lot more bullish. Excuse me, I just want to make sure I'm in a populated world, and if I lose, I probably can't get back in, and I don't want to get logged out. Anyways, so that's how I look at it right now overall in Tesla stock. Now the daily, is looking actually pretty decent, honestly. All things considered, it's not looking too bad at all, right? We have the EMA saved. It didn't fully cross below the 50. Remember, I was talking about that. Didn't get a full crossover, which is good. And not only did we not get a full crossover, we're actually getting a full crossover back to the upside with the 9 going back above the 21. So all these factors are, looking like the overall momentum on Tesla stock looks pretty good. And I'd still want something to look like this, right? This is kind of what I'm still eyeballing. This is, if I had to, pick out the perfect scenario, the perfect setup, this would be it. Nice impulsive move up, nice looking bull flag, right back into those exponential moving averages, 320 to 315 again. And then from there, we build up that pressure to really blast off and outside of this pennant and, go higher essentially to 400s, right? That's kind of my, if I were to envision a perfect scenario, if you will, for the bulls, something like this is what I would look at, right? Give or take, right? I would expect Tesla to reject around here, and that would create that consolidation to the downside, hopefully on lower volume. And then I think from there, we can blast off higher. But let's see how it goes, right? Again, with earnings literally in a few days, it's anyone's guess at the end of the day, but that's what I would envision. And that's my more likely outcome, at least as of right now, with the way things are looking, especially considering the MACD has now officially, not convincingly, but still got that bullish crossover. So the bulls are definitely regaining momentum, which I like to see. So again, I still expect a rejection around here, especially with the daily being up here with the SMI and the 4-hour and the 1-hour. Like, the SMI is getting overheated on multiple time frames. I do still expect a rejection somewhere around here, potentially even where we are right now, but maybe a little bit higher. Maybe 335 even, right? But I would expect a rejection somewhere in the 330s. I would expect a nice little bull flag. And then I think from there, we blast off and at the very least get an actual retest of this pennant closer to 340. But that could also be enough to break out and actually start an actual bull trend in the stock, which it has been kind of lacking for quite some time. But all in all, that's probably how I'm looking at it right now in the most simplistic way possible. And yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see how earnings goes. In terms of options flow, Tesla stock, pretty mixed towards the end of the day. But in the morning, there was actually quite some notable flow. I think it was these right here. Yeah. So here, when Tesla stock was pretty much at 330, actually, pretty much where it is right now, someone did buy 320 puts on Tesla stock for August 8th. 5.2 million, very, very unusual in my opinion. And even more unusual are these two right here, pretty much for $205,000 each. Very, very high size relative to the average size in this contract for next week. Right, 245 strike put next week expiration. Could be a hedge into earnings, or maybe they expect earnings to be an absolute disaster. Nobody knows. Nobody knows if this is a hedge or they just are straight up just bearish, right? It's hard to say for sure, but worth mentioning nonetheless. But all in all, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you Monday. Peace.